All right, it's 4 o'clock. I think we can go ahead and get started. Hi, everybody. I'm Katie Monahan, and I'm a communications strategist here at the Ohio Arts Council, and I'm excited to welcome you to today's webinar, Individual Excellence Awards, What to Know Before You Apply. So I will introduce our presenters here in just a minute, but before we get started, there are just a few housekeeping items that we need to go over. So first, everyone tuning in today is in listen-only mode. This just helps to cut down on any feedback issues during the presentation. But if you have a question at any point, go ahead and drop it into the Q&A box there in your control panel. We'll be monitoring those questions throughout the webinar, and we'll be sure to leave plenty of time to answer everyone's questions at the end during a dedicated Q&A session. Next, live captioning is available for this webinar, and you can access those captions by clicking on the closed captioning icon and selecting Show Subtitle. And if you have audio issues or trouble connecting, we recommend refreshing your browser. And if that doesn't work, try logging off and logging back in. And also, please keep in mind that because we are presenting from our homes, there may be some slight variations in bandwidth or internet stability. So if the sound fluctuates or one of us freezes up for a minute, thank you in advance for bearing with us. I promise we will keep on rolling. And finally, we are recording today's webinar, and the recording will be available on our webinars page at oac.ohio.gov/webinars and on our YouTube channel by early next week. All right, I think that does it for housekeeping. Time to introduce our presenters. So joining me today are Kathy Signorino, the director, and Katie Davis, the coordinator of Individual Artist and Percent for Art programs here at the Ohio Arts Council. Kathy, who many of our attendees may know, has been with our agency for quite a long time. She is currently in her 27th year here at the OAC, and she's been working in the individual artist programs for 22 of those 27 years. So be prepared to learn some sage advice from Kathy. And Katie is the OAC's newest employee, but she does have one cycle of the Individual Excellence Awards program under her belt, and she comes with an invaluable set of skills as both a studio artist and a teacher. So Kathy and Katie are here to share their knowledge and help you prepare a strong application for the OAC's Individual Excellence Awards program. All right, and then here is a look at what you can expect during our time together today. So first, Kathy and Katie are going to give an overview of the IEA program. They'll walk you through the guidelines. They'll offer guidance on writing your narratives, preparing your support materials, and accessing ARTIE, which is our grant application system. They're also going to go over what happens during a panel meeting. So clearly we have a lot to cover. Let's go ahead and get started. Kathy, Katie, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you so much, Katie. All right, most of you know the Ohio Arts Council and the resources that we provide. Others are new to the agency, so let me share that the Ohio Arts Council is a state agency that funds and supports quality arts experiences to strengthen Ohio's communities culturally, educationally, and economically. With funds from the Ohio Legislature and the National Endowment for the Arts, the OAC provides financial assistance to artists and arts organizations. The council accomplishes this charge in two primary methods. First, through the various grant funding programs that the council operates to provide support to artists and to make arts activities available to a broad segment of Ohio's public. And secondly, by providing services that help to enhance the growth of the arts. Our agency is led by Donna Collins, Executive Director, and Deputy Director Dan Katona. We are thrilled to work with the OAC leadership and staff to carry out our mission, which includes supporting Ohio's artists. Before applying to any grant program with the Ohio Arts Council or otherwise, it's best to read the full guidelines. You can find our guidelines on the OAC website, oac.ohio.gov, under Grants, Individual Artists, Individual Excellence Awards. There's a PDF there that provides all the details you'll need to know. And also, we're going to put this link in the chat for you today. All right, so what are the Individual Excellence Awards? These are awards of excellence for past work by Ohio creative artists. We define a creative artist as the originator of the artistic idea, and that means the playwright, not the actor, the choreographer, not the dancer, the composer, not the musician, can apply to this program. And remember, these are not project grants. Individual Excellence Awards recognize the exceptional merit of an Ohio artist's past body of work. Awards celebrate the creativity and imagination that exemplify the highest level of achievement in an artistic discipline. Awards may be used for a variety of expenses to enhance an artist's growth and development. Awards may not be used for enrolling or continuing in a degree granting program, and recipients also must remain within the state during the grant year. On average, we receive about 450 applications each year, and of these applications, about 16% receive funding. Annually, the OAC provides 75 $5,000 awards to creative artists. All right, to be eligible to apply to the program, you must be an Ohio resident, living and working in the state. And you need to be living and working in the state for a year prior to the September deadline. Applicants must be at least 18 years of age. Students attending high school or students pursuing undergraduate or graduate degrees at the time of application may not apply. During odd calendar years, we will accept applications in choreography, music composition, as well as the literature disciplines. And these include fiction, nonfiction, poetry, playwriting and screenplays, that's one discipline together, and criticism. During even-numbered calendar years, we will accept applications in the visual-based disciplines, including crafts, visual arts 2D, visual arts 3D, photography, media arts, and design. Applicants may submit only one application per year, with the exception of arts criticism. If you do write arts criticism, you may apply to another discipline if you apply with two separate bodies of work. If this is the case, please contact our office and we'll allow you to open up two applications. Collaborative applications are accepted if both artists are the creators of the body of work being submitted. Applications are reviewed through an anonymous peer review process. And also, if you need advice thinking about which discipline you should consider, you can always email us. Our contact information is on our website, and our email will be available on the screen at the end of the webinar today. All right, when you read the guidelines, it's important to note specific requirements for your discipline. Pay attention to how old the work can be, and what your required support materials are, and how many works should be submitted, because different disciplines have different requirements. These sections of the guidelines are also in the support material section of the ARTIE application. All right, now that you've read the guidelines, you're ready to begin the next step. We suggest that you prepare your narrative statement and philosophy in a word processing program before entering it into ARTIE. Each statement can be no longer than 250 words. After that 250 word limit, your statement will be cut off. The Individual Excellence Award narrative statement is a description of the work you are submitting in the application. The philosophy statement tells the panelists why you have created the work you are submitting. It can also tell them if this is a continuation of a body of work that you've done for a while, or if this is a new exploration. It should really give them a context for your work. Also, here's an important tip as you begin writing. The narrative you submit should not include any biographical information. We want to provide the panelists with information about the work as they consider your full application. If there's any biographical or resume information in your statements, it will be taken out prior to the panelists having access to it. Now, if there's important information that's really necessary to understanding the work, for example, if your work explores your Latino heritage, it's fine to state that if it is linking to your work. All right. And there are some things that you should include in your narrative statement to help panelists understand the work you submitted in your application. For the literature categories, you should use the narrative statement to talk about the full body of work. This is important if you are submitting just a few chapters from a larger work, or if your poems are a part of maybe a larger series of writing. For music composition and choreography, in addition to describing the work that you're submitting, you can also share the intended audience, performance details, and any additional information that might help the panel understand your work. Like I mentioned in the last slide, giving the panelists the context of the work that you're submitting is really important.
Thank you, Katie. Now we are going to talk specifically about what is required for each discipline accepted this year, as well as the types of work submitted within each discipline. This slide shows the format that all literature manuscripts should follow. Please make sure your name is not on any part of the manuscript, and instead use your application number to identify yourself. You must have a title page for your manuscript, and if appropriate, a table of contents. Then begins your manuscript page requirements. Please make sure that the font is no smaller than 11 point, and you should use a 1-inch margin on all sides. For the fiction and nonfiction categories, you will upload your manuscript as one PDF. Even if you're submitting multiple chapters or stories, it will still be one document. Most poetry submissions will have a table of contents. For the playwriting category, you will upload each play or screenplay as a separate file. For the fiction and nonfiction categories, you are required to submit 20 to 30 pages of writing. This could be one complete work, a few chapters of a longer work, or a few short stories or essays. If you are submitting a few chapters of a larger work, tell them what happened before and after the chapters you are sharing. You can also share if the essays or short stories are part of a collection. The work must be from the last 3 years, but the work does not have to be published. Some examples of what past applicants have submitted. In the fiction and nonfiction categories, they have submitted a few chapters of a larger work, making sure that there is cohesion within those chapters. A few short stories or essays. This is a great option because it is helpful for the panel to understand the full arc of the story and see the story's resolution. Or one 20 to 30 page work in its entirety. You should try and submit work that is as cohesive as possible. Panelists like to be able to have an understanding not only of your writing style, but how the work is going to resolve itself. A special note about this year's panels. For the first time, we are going to have a separate nonfiction panel. For those of you that are writing for young audiences, please be sure to mention this in your narrative. For poetry, you must submit 10 to 15 pages of poetry. Make sure that there is only one poem per page. All types of poetry styles are accepted and reviewed by the poetry panel. Make sure to tell the panelists in your narrative what genre you're working in, and if within that genre you're exploring anything new within the art form. Also, it is nice if the work holds together either by theme, style, or subject. Make sure to say if this is a part of a larger collection. The work must be completed within the last 3 years. In the playwriting screenplay category, you will be submitting one full play or screenplay, or 2 one-act plays or screenplays. The same panel reviews both plays and screenplays. Musical theater applications are also accepted in this category. For these applications, you should submit an audio sample and a libretto. There is no page limit in this category, and each play should be uploaded as a separate PDF. It is helpful to explain within your narrative what the genre you are working within, who the intended audience is, and how the work will be presented to the audience. This helps the panelists frame the work before reading the manuscripts. The work does not have to have been presented, but if it was, you can talk in generalities about where it was presented, but please leave specific theater names and locations out of your narrative. We allow for the work to be completed within the last 5 years. In the criticism category, you will be submitting between 30 and 50 pages of writing. This could be a collection of reviews that you wrote for a local paper, some criticism from online magazines or blog posts. The most important thing is that this is a critical analysis of contemporary art forms. Historic analysis, done for academic purposes, is not accepted in this program. This discipline is really to support the critical analysis and review of contemporary art. It is important to let the panelists know who your intended audience is for the criticism category. This helps them better understand if your writing is successful for that audience. So in the music composition discipline, you should submit audio samples of 2 complete works with scores or lead sheets. It is important to submit the notation of the music composition, as this is the aspect of your work that the panelists are evaluating. Submissions of just audio samples are accepted, but they tend to not fare as well in the review. For composers that work in new technologies or computer-based work, you should try to present a computer rendering of the music. For music composition, we accept a wide range of genres, and the applications are reviewed by application number order. So there will be a jazz application, then an orchestral, then chamber, and then popular. There is no separation into subgenres and no specific funding allocations based on these genres. The panelists that serve on the panel have a knowledge about multiple genres. Composers whose scores are large format size should upload a PDF of the score in that large size, and we will send to panelists a printed bound version. The work must have been completed within the last 3 years, but it does not have to have been performed. MIDI files are accepted in lieu of performance recordings. For the choreography category, you should submit video samples of 2 complete works. Work is from the last 5 years. All types of choreography are reviewed by this panel, including ballet, modern, hip hop, folk, and traditional. If you need to submit screening notes for your pieces to better understand the location or the siting of the work, you can upload a PDF as support material.
Okay, so now you have your narrative and philosophy written and your support material prepared. It's time for you to begin your ARTIE application. If you've never applied through ARTIE, you'll need to create a registration first. And to do this, you need to go to ohioartscouncil.smartsimple.com. There's also a quick link on our grants page of our website as well. You're going to see the register button at the bottom of the page. And if you applied in the past and aren't able to log in, you may need to hit the forgot password button and a temporary password will be sent to you. After completing the registration process and logging in, you will land on the ARTIE homepage. You can navigate by clicking on the menu at the top of the page or on the icons below. When you first enter the system and you want to start an application, you will select Begin a New Application tab. You will see the grant programs open. You'll see the grant programs open to you, and then you select the Open button next to the Individual Excellence Awards. When you log into ARTIE the next time, you're going to click the Open and Active Application tab to get back into your in-progress application. And ARTIE, good news, ARTIE is really user-friendly, and your application and support materials are saved online, so you don't have to worry about completing an application all in one sitting. You can move in and out of your application in ARTIE 24/7 until the day of the deadline. And the day of the deadline is September 1st, this year, 2021, and the last chance to submit that day is 5 p.m. When you get into your application, you will notice it has assigned you an application number. It's important to keep note of this number because you're going to need it when corresponding with us at the Arts Council and also during the panel review. The first thing you'll need to answer is if you are applying with a collaborator. We do allow 2 artists working together on one body of work. If indeed you are applying with a collaborative team, each artist must be an Ohio resident and not a student. And each artist will make an application with their collaborator name noted on their application. Each collaborator will submit the same narrative, but only one of you will submit the support materials. If awarded, you would split the award equally. And if you are not applying as a collaboration, you will just say no to that question. At this point in the application process, you will enter your narrative and philosophy. It's best if you cut and paste from your word processing program document. You'll probably have to use the function of Control-C to copy and Control-V to paste in the ARTIE system. And then you need to watch your word counts at the bottom of each section. We suggest that you also ask a friend to look over your narrative. This is really helpful just to see if it makes sense to them when looking at your support materials. When you click the support materials tab, you'll see the drop down to select the discipline you're applying to. For all literature disciplines, you will first select literature as your discipline, and then the sub-disciplines will determine which panel you're applying to. And for choreography and music composition, all sub-disciplines are reviewed by their respective panels. Once you select your discipline, the information that's required for that discipline will show up for you. If you are uploading video and audio files, you will add the metadata for their work, title, director, and editor after you upload it. And then you hit the edit metadata tab to enter that information. For choreography, if you have large file size videos, we recommend that you link to them in a video sharing site like YouTube or Vimeo, as we mentioned earlier, and upload a PDF with live links. And that would be under the second upload button. All right, once you have your support material uploaded, next we have an optional survey for you to complete. This has some demographic information. This information is for reporting to the National Endowment for the Arts and in no way will be shared with the panel, and it does not affect award decision making. All right, you've completed your narrative and philosophy, you've uploaded your support material, and now it's time to check that application and submit it. First, you're going to click the Save button at the bottom of the page, and then before clicking Submit, you'll want to check for errors. And once this is done and there's no errors are found, then you can click the I have reviewed the application button, and then you're going to verify that you're a resident of the state of Ohio and not a student in a degree or certificate granting program, and then you click Submit. All right, now for one of the best parts, you'll receive an email from ARTIE alerting you that your application was successfully submitted. And then we have an optional survey that you'll get that allows you to give us some feedback that we hope that you will complete. And it helps us really better our services. You'll receive another email later from ARTIE in early October, alerting you to the details of the panel meeting, which will be held in December.
So the panel meeting, let's talk a little bit about that. The panelists that serve on our panels are out-of-state arts professionals who will be comprised of a mix of experiences in their specific disciplines, as well as demographically diverse with a variety of genders, ethnicity, age, and geographic location. On the day of the panel, the panelist bios will be available on our website. They will not be distributed ahead of the panel meeting. Each panel year, we select new panelists. So even if you've applied before, even with the same work, there will be a new panel reviewing your work. So this means that new panelists mean a new aesthetic each year. Panelists will be provided with your support materials, your narrative statements and philosophy, and any AV information to review before the live panel meeting. They are not provided any biographical information about you. Each panel uses the review criteria listed in our guidelines when evaluating the work submitted. They assign a score of a 1, 2, or 3 for each criteria. And a score of 3 is given to applications that strongly reflect that criteria. The highest cumulative score an application can receive is a 21. The applications are then averaged for the 3 panelists. This scoring is used to make recommendations to our council board for funding. We will be holding virtual panel meetings for 2 weeks in December to review the submitted applications. The panel meeting dates and times will be emailed to all applicants in October, like Katie said, but will also be listed on our website. The links to the meetings will be available as the meetings get closer. The applications will be reviewed in the order in which they are received within that discipline. Each application will be discussed by the panelists, with each panelist sharing the strengths and weaknesses of the application. Even though the panelists discuss each application, there will be no culminating announcement if the application is funded or not funded during the panel meeting. The scores for each application will not be announced during the panel meeting, but instead will be emailed to applicants the week after the panels conclude. Once the panels conclude, all applicants will receive an email from ARTIE at the beginning of January to let you know if you were recommended for an award or not. If you were recommended, then we ask you to provide proof of residency as well as other documentation as we prepare the recommendations for our board's consideration. The OAC board reviews recommendations at the first meeting of the calendar year. When they approve the recommendations, we will begin processing your award agreement, and then once the grant agreement is accepted, your award for payment. For those that receive individual excellence awards, you can use the funds however you think would best support your future art making. You can buy supplies, pay studio rental, pay for a babysitter for writing time, or even go to a workshop or attend a residency. You just need to remain a resident of the state of Ohio during the grant period and may not use the funds to continue your education. We ask you to publicize your award and complete a final report about the effects of the award on your art making by December 31st, the same year of your award. Best of all, you can apply again in 2 years with a new body of work. Now that we've reviewed the full application process, I want to remind you that Katie and I are here to help you with your application, and we encourage you to reach out to us and ask your questions.
All right, I think that it is time to open the floor to questions. Thank you, Kathy and Katie. That was incredibly informative. We do have a few questions on deck here. I just wanted to remind everybody that if you do have a question, go ahead and drop it in the Q&A box there in your control panel, and we'll try to get to everyone's questions here. The first question, somebody asked if a recording was available. They came in a little bit late, and I just wanted to let everyone know, yes, we are recording today's webinar. The recording will be available on our webinars page on our website at oac.ohio.gov/webinars. Early next week, I'll also be sending out a follow-up email with a link to the recording to everyone who registered for today's webinar. So that will definitely be made available to you. All right, so let's get started here. First question, do you offer application reviews before making the final submission?
We're both nodding our heads, but yes, we do.
We do. We're happy to help.
Yes, we are happy to help. In the years that we have writing disciplines, it's a little bit more difficult for us to give a lot of feedback, just because we are not going to have you change your writing sample, because that's your writing, that's the actual work. I mean, compared to maybe how a visual artist is presenting the series of slides, that's what we do, or images, that's what we do in those years. But we will definitely look at what your submission is, especially if it's a couple of chapters of a larger work. See if your narrative is framing those couple of chapters to help the understanding for the panelists of that work. So we will definitely. You can send your request to Katie or myself or both of us, and we will we'll look at it, and then we'll set up a time to do a little video chat with you. That's what we like to do. We like to meet our artists in the virtual realm and have a conversation that way. Katie, do you want to give any?
Yeah, I agree with everything Kathy said. Yeah, we're happy to help, and yeah, I agree with Kathy.
And Katie has actually been answering a lot of questions since the application is open about, it's a simple thing. We had a great one from a person who asked about flash fiction. Where would flash fiction go? And so that was a great conversation that we had with that applicant, and it helped us kind of discuss the panels and what they would respond to and the type of work. So yeah, any of those kind of questions, we're happy to answer.
Definitely.
Tara, can you share your screen again one more time? We had a question. Somebody was asking about Kathy and Katie's email addresses. Let's put that back up there just for a minute for everyone so that they can get that. Thank you. Our next question, can you resubmit a new version of a work sample that was submitted in a previous year's application that was not awarded?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So there's always the question about the age of the work, and if you have if this work is something that you have reworked, and since you're reworking it, it is taken from the time that you reworked it. So meaning if you wrote this 5 years ago and you reworked it within the last 3 years, we consider that a new work, because that as a new content within that work. So yes, absolutely. We just can't accept anything that got funded. So definitely.
All right, let's see. This one's about panel meetings. So can someone attend the panel meetings either online, like in Zoom, or in person if they were to be held in person?
Yeah, you want me to take that one, Kathy?
Sure.
Yeah, we love applicants to participate in the meetings. Well, to attend the meetings. You don't get to actually be participating and talking, but it's just for listen only mode. But yeah, we will be posting that ahead of the panels. You'll have that Zoom link that will be on our website, and you can tune in and listen to the whole panel process.
Yeah, one thing we want to clarify is, unlike our webinars, our board meetings and our panel meetings are not recorded. So you of course can pop in anytime you want. We give the order of review on our website, so you'll know where your application is flowing. But we want you to come in, but you can of course participate in it. But we won't have a recording for you. If you missed yours, I'm sorry. But the one thing is that Katie and I are here to help. So if there were comments made about your work, there should be comments made about every work. But if you would like us to share those with you, we won't put them in formal writing to you. We don't do that for every applicant, but we will definitely, you can shoot us an email, say, hey, what was going on with my application? Do you have any comments you could share with me? And we'll definitely do that for you. We ask that you give us a little bit of time, just because we are in panel meetings for 2 weeks straight. So if you're at the very beginning of the cycle of panels, we probably won't be able to get anything to you until all those panels are concluded, just to let you know that.
All right, so next we have a couple of literary questions. The first is, when submitting chapters, if chapters are slightly under 20 pages or slightly over 30, would you prefer to see the chapters in full or adhere to the page limit?
Kathy, I'm gonna let you take this one.
So I'm just trying to think, that's funny, I'm like trying to think of the logistics on that one. So say that again, just
Sure.
under 20.
If the chapters are slightly under 20 pages or slightly over 30 pages, would you prefer to see them in full or strictly adhere to that page limit?
Oh yeah, you definitely have to adhere to the page limit. You have to, as soon as after you do that, cover page or title page, and if there's if you have a table of contents, then begins your 20 to 30 pages. That's a strict 20 to 30 pages. If we hit 30 pages, we, get rid of the extra pages. And so what I would suggest is to do 20 page, if it's a little bit less, one chapter is a little less than 20 pages, submit that one, and then submit 11 pages of the other chapter, and just make sure it's 30. I would not just submit one sample. I would go ahead and do 2 chapters if you can. Yeah, I think that you want to give them as much of a writing sample as possible, and even know that you're not going to have the full chapter concluded in that submission, it still will get them to understand kind of the continuation of the story. And if I can say, in that one particular instance, I would probably do chapters that are right next to each other, and instead of say like chapter 5 and then chapter 8, I would try and get a continuation between those 2 writing samples.
Great, thank you, Kathy. The next one, and forgive me because I cannot remember what you said about published or unpublished works, but this question is asking, could I submit the first few chapters of a book that is mostly drafted but not entirely completed?
Yes, definitely. And it doesn't have to be published. So yeah, you know, we do want, I mean, these are manuscripts that are being recommended for an award. So they should be edited. They should be as good and clean as you have them. I mean, that's the number one thing that we'll do a manuscript in, is if there's typos and if the formatting isn't good. It's just the way it is, especially when our panelists are reviewing, you know, on average 60 to 70 manuscripts, especially in fiction, nonfiction, you know, of 20 to 30 pages of 60 to 70 manuscripts. They get a little bit particular about how something is presented. So you want to put your best writing sample forward.
Fantastic. And you did touch on this one, but I want to make sure that we hit it again because the question was asked. Can you talk a little bit about the panelists? Someone was asking if they're the same every year.
Oh yeah, so Katie can take that because she's heavy into panel selection right now.
Yeah, finding panelists currently. Yeah, we go out of state. The panelists do have to be out of state, and they are new every year. So we never repeat a panelist. And we try within a discipline, like within fiction, we try to cover, I mean, within fiction, as you writers know, there's a lot of variety of different genres and different types. So we try to cover our bases as best as we can and just get variety in there. So they're not all specializing in the same thing. We also try to look for different geography. Like, we don't want to have like all 3 panelists from Kentucky. We try to have them from all over. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and we have a big database of panelists, and we put them all in there. And so this is we always like to give a plug for panelists. We accept panel nominations from anyone. So if you know of a panelist that you think would be fantastic, they have to be out of state, of course, that you would like to recommend to us, send us an email, and we will put them in our big database, and then you know, potentially use them.
All right, thank you. And then this is the last one. So is it correct that songwriters are not eligible for composition? And if so, are there any avenues for songwriters that they could pursue as far as awards go?
Well, so if they're singer-songwriters and they're writing the music, then they can apply. It's just that they have to, so songwriters have come in with only audio samples without the written music. And it's just not as competitive. So if there is some kind of notation that the panel can see, then that's what we want. We want the panel to be able to look at the notation and understand the music as they're listening to the audio samples. So just remember, you know, they're looking at works that are full orchestral scores. They're looking at chamber music, new music, computer music,
jazz as well.
Jazz, yeah. I mean, so and all types of music are funded, but it's just that how competitive is your work compared to something that's like a full orchestral score. So that's the only thing. We just want you to have your work be as competitive as possible with the panel.
Thanks for that clarification.
Oh, and one, you know, they asked about if there's other places. You know, I do this all the time where I suggest that folks, if you're looking for grants outside of the Ohio Arts Council, to definitely go and look at the source, which is the New York Foundation's website for funders for artists.
Thank you. We had one more question slide in here at the end. We had talked about published and unpublished works. Somebody's asking, if you have had poems published, is it okay to include that notation with each poem?
No.
Yeah.
Nope. Please do not. That we want it to be as anonymous as possible. We don't want people to be looking you up on that publication site. We don't want, you know, there's a potential for them to then be able to know who you are. It might persuade them in some way because you're published. Yeah, all of that should be left out.
Yeah, they're really just reviewing the work only.
Excellent. Stay anonymous. So I think that does it for today's presentation. Thank you so much, Kathy and Katie, for sharing your expertise. And thank you to everyone who took the time to tune in today. Hopefully you have all the information you need now to hit submit with confidence. So thank you, Kathy and Katie, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you.